Howdy, howdy. So, took all the parts to the welders yesterday. They looked it over. They were impressed. They said no problem to do what needs to be done to weld all those parts in. Should be here next week. And yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. I'm actually listening to music, Pink Floyd, right now. So I always listen to music when I'm recording most times. I don't know why. It's just I pretend like it's in the room, I guess you could say, and we're talking. Hi-ho. I took that all to the welders. Not a problem. Tickety-boo. Good to go. Hopefully they'll get it back next week. Hopefully everything fits up. But the other thing I got to do and start on is, well, one, the electrical. And I don't know what it needs, what gauge wire, but I think I'm going to run it over to the fuse box and use the old alternator 80 amp connection, right? Because you can just crimp an end on that wire, put it right on there. Bob's your uncle. The alternator now has another power source, which runs off all the way to the battery, right? So this is debatable. I guess the power goes from the battery in the trunk all the way to the engine bay. The engine bay has a splitter up there, a three-way splitter. One to the starter, one to the ECU, and one to the alternator with appropriate gauge wire. There's a breaker in the trunk for all those items in case anything goes wrong on them. Now we got this power steering, which needs, I think, 80, 100. I got to check up on this. I can't remember. You can go off the old alternator connection in the fuse box, which is an 80 amp. If it needs more than that, it's going to need its own connection off that, off the splitter box there, power distribution box. But I only got a 3 one now. We need a 4. A 4 output one is what we would need. And the gauge, I think it's a 2 gauge all the way back to the trunk, so we're good there. So yeah, 2 gauge up, and then their 4 gauge coming out. Yeah, I think 4. Yeah, I think 4. 4 gauge coming out. Might be an 8 gauge? 8 gauge coming out to all the things. That's what's happening now. So we'll have to do the wiring, or at least start looking at that. The other huge thing to do is the rack. Right, it's got fluid, it's got the pump, it's got the lines, all got to be removed. Quick rundown of that. There's 2 ways to do this. Yeah, 2 ways to do it. One, people are looping the lines to each other. You're just swishing the fluid back and forth between the sides. But I think there's a pressure issue there personally. I also know there's vents from side to side as well. So I don't know how they're dealing with that. Some people say a catch can, breather can. I don't like this. The other thing too is by just leaving the fluid in, it adds a lot of resistance. And the resistance doesn't help with the steering. It makes it kind of wishy-washy. Where it was forceful fluid before, now it's like a standstill fluid that you're pushing. Not quite sure. So 3rd way, 2nd way, whatever number we're on, manual rack conversion. Get rid of the fluid, get rid of everything, grease the rack up. There's a trick here you got to do, and thanks to probably Grumpy and folks online or whoever figured this out, but you're putting washers in there to take up the slack that the fluid used to take up, and problem solved there. So I think that's what we're going to do, is that 3rd one. So we got to rip the rack out, and the question is, where do we go beyond no return here? I guess we're already committed. I may wait for the thing to return. At least start doing research on the electrical. There's that electrical box that connects to the motor. It needs power, and obviously a circuit breaker or fuse. electrical, and then start to rip the rack out. And I've never ripped the rack out, never done it before, so this would be interesting. Never opened one up. Probably going to make a huge mess. Need to get the car up on some jack stands, and it should be fun. All right, cheers, y'all. Man, this does not look good. Looks a little moist. No, it's not wet at all. I mean, there's no way we're going to get these lines out of here easily. How do you get, like, this is something, I remember now, they're all bolted to this top of this cross member. I don't think there's any way we're going to get this out. You can see where somebody did a new line long ago. I think I remember that actually. But it's only 4 bolts, I think. 4 very large bolts that hold this thing on. That's what I see anyway. Alright, we took the bumper off. We didn't take the rack out yet or anything. We're still thinking on that when we're going to do it, but going to start thinking about draining the fluid and everything. This was the, should have started a video earlier, but this went in behind the radiator and was my power steering fluid cooler setup is what it was. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. Yeah. But it's a mess of wires that, yeah, I'd be happy to remove. Great thing about this mod is things are appearing that I never thought of. I could only get a certain filter on the turbo because of the space, and I could never utilize over here. It also opens up the mess of, well, that's coming out and that's coming out, and we'll only be left with the alternator power wire, which I wish I could route somewhere else, but it's all good. And a very annoying looking stands out dipstick. Yeah. Wonder what people do with this. Huh. Anyway, super cool. We'll be able to actually get a cool filter going on here. Something different. I'd love to be able to find a block off plate for this, but they don't exist anymore. Long ago you could, but if anyone knows where I can get one of those, let me know. Thanks all. Okay, super exciting. We got it back from the welders. Obviously, they did an amazing job. Way better than I could do, but that's their job. So that's good. So we had a 16th, we kept the 16th there. That should match up. We had them add the end, right? Weld an end on. And we added an 1/8 there because my measurement was wrong, and this got welded together, which is awesome. So this, I don't need to tell you how this goes together, you guys remember, but this needs to go back in here. And the only issue I have now is that it's a kind of a press fit, to be honest. We can slide this up in here. And we know it comes out the end like that. But we know it needs to go further than this. Even further than this, because there's the start of the lock. It needs to go another quarter, which makes sense because this part of the shaft is like a press fit. The bearing was press fit onto this thing. So we need to get that on there. Now, the problem I have is how to do that. Right, so I guess some kind of puller mechanism is needed, or we're doing pounding, which I don't want to do. Right, we turn it upside down. We can see that guy in there, but it's threaded and it goes over the motor. And I don't want to damage. that. So we got to think of a way to properly get this back down through the bearing, kind of pull it through somehow, some way. And then once we're done that, we can see if it's going to fit in the car, because everything needs to line up perfectly. Yep. So I'm going to put some thought into that. The other thing was this guy here. We need to know what wires go where. Obviously it's a positive, negative for power, but do we need these other 3 little wires? I'm not really sure. Either way, we needed some wire. So this stuff came in today. We got some 8-gauge wire. We got connectors. We got package of heat shrink tubing sizes. We got some 8-gauge wire. We got more connectors just in case. We got a circuit breaker. Get a knife. And, they don't make them like they used to for a lot of stuff these days, I'm realizing. Kind of sucks. Or I've got to change shopping networks, but yeah, that's the usual 60 amp breaker. Because it's a 60 amp fuse for the power steering motor, so that's what we're going to use. Hopefully we don't click it off, but I did buy a distribution block. And it's hard to find good ones. They all seem to be made in, you guessed it, and they're just so small and dinky and shitty, and where's the good ones? Like, I guess I should have ordered from a proper, maybe sound system place. Doesn't seem that bad, it just seems cheap Chinese. Yeah. We'll try it. There was another one up here that I ordered, and I thought, oh no, this is too wimpy, and we need to get a better one. Yeah, it is a different size hole. So one will take the 4-gauge, and one won't. That's why I didn't use this one. But I thought this one was chinky and tiny, so I went and bought another one. It looks pretty much exactly just as crappy. It's just there's not enough metal. In other ones I've had, there would be a lot more metal to well, make it more robust, I guess we could say. It'll do. We'll try. We'll see. We did start ripping out power steering stuff, and I'm so glad to get rid of this junk. I mean, it's the original engine when shipped. On the crate leaned against the wall of the truck, and so at the time long ago, the guy that was doing the work for me used a 95 Accord CD5 power steering pump, which sucked because nothing really matched up like it should have. So yeah, of course, then they ended up making a special high pressure line for this pump, which meant I was stuck with this pump forever. We had the Mishimoto reservoir, which always leaked, and the hose fitting size was always different than the other size, you know, the other end, sorry, that it had to go to. So it would always seem like, you know, if we're coming out of the reservoir, well, it's not the same diameter as this. And when you buy a power steering line hose, there's usually no adapters kind of thing. So you end up making making this work somehow, some way. You know, it just always sucked. And the belt was always in the way of that side of the engine bay. And then we also tried to imitate the cooler, like the OEM setup, because everything was overheating. And it was just a mess of hoses and crap running everywhere. I never really enjoyed it. Never mind, I went through 3 of these. They leak, they make noise. When you can't bleed them right, they make more noise. The power steering whining sound that we all know of. So yeah, I'd be happy to get rid of this if this whole project goes through successfully. Same with, you know, in the bay, something I didn't realize is how much room is freed up in the bay without this here. It's so much room. I mean, one, the belt would travel through here where I have some of my lines running. Oil feed and the alternator power wire went through here. I also had the power steering fluid line coming through here. Not the high pressure, just the... Yeah, there was the one that went to the filter. Yeah, the cooler. It frees up all this room. I also had limitations on what filter I could use off the turbo because the power steering pump was here. Still a mess. So yeah, also limitation on what kind of filter I could use. So now it'd be cool to find some kind of big, huge filter that goes off to the side in here. Just this monster filter that's too much, you know, for the car kind of thing. Make it look funny. I think that'd be a great idea. Other guys mentioned you're just sucking in hot air, but yeah, no duh. There's just nothing I can do otherwise. I mean, we're not running any kind of 4-inch, 3-inch tubing down anywhere. The most we could do is make another hole, but I'm not doing that. So for now, it'll just be a cool looking filter, maybe green or something cool like that. So what do we got to do? We got to get the power steering motor. Look at even the junk on the block from all the years of leaking fluid. Yeah. Let me finish what I was saying. Yeah. You gotta get the motor fitted under the dash. I left the rack in just for that reason, to make sure it'll fit. Once we know the rack fits, the column fits, and hooks up to the rack fine, that's good. Then we got the green light then to rip the rack out and do a manual conversion on the rack. Once that's done, this project is done. I am beyond excited to get this done. So can't wait to see the results of this, and if it works, that's going to be awesome. So yeah, that's it's coming along great. And then we'll have to put the dash back in and get all that stuff going. And yeah, this is great news. So exciting, so exciting.
If anybody wants meals, you're still in the way. You seem to be moving on. Wait a second. That's good.
This, not this. This is the, what a great feeling. Right, so I can turn the, this bolt and it turns the motor and everything's fully moving, I guess you could say. Or, there it goes. Nothing's grinding or touching, that kind of thing. 1 second. Got to move the motor. So yeah, that's great news. I do feel something though. I don't know if that's the motor. I'd have to do it. So we're just gonna try and see if we can get this to fit this. We had to press this back in, and you can see it centers itself based off this. So I don't know. There's a kind of bit of a lean into this that's not helping me. We're gonna see if we can work with it, see what we can do to make this work. But you need it so that this thing rotates inside effortlessly. Right now it's hitting because it's not on the shaft to center it. Let's see if we can get that in there, and yeah. Okay, let's do a little explaining here. So yes, the column part that was welded had a little slant to it at the end, which made it hard to get the motor and get it centered when everything fits together inside of it. But and something was rubbing in there. You can see me kind of shaving off parts of this inside of the column here. But it wasn't where it was welded, it wasn't where it was slanted that was rubbing, it was further up. And the more and more I looked into it, it seemed like it was simply the Versa part of the shaft that was wider, larger diameter, but only like it wasn't perfectly round. So you had to take off, I guess, one side of that or shave it down a bit. Um, that was the problem. So, and you could tell when you rotated it, 180 degrees it would rub, and so I would put marker on it and put it together and figure out where it's rubbing and just grind that down. But it wasn't where the weld was, and it wasn't where it was slanted. It was in a totally different spot. Yeah, so that little slant on the end, the only effect that had was trying to get it onto the motor was a bit harder than usual. So I just grinded down the inside of the one part, and it slid over a lot better. So yeah, it's smooth as butters now. And here we are trying to get in the car, and the funny thing is that it weighs even more now. So I think I'm gonna have to get the bottom drive shaft thing on the rack connected before I can put the rest of it up and in, because yeah, maybe. I think the other way obviously is to loosen the drive shaft ends, and one goes further down to pull it back up, but that was with the OEM setup to get it out. Now I don't think you can do that, but it doesn't matter. So everything smooth as butter. We're going to make sure everything lines up here, and I already know it does, but this is the exciting part of the video, is that everything works, lines up, smooth as butter. I was even turning the wheels. Great times. Anyway, enjoy. All right, I think we got her. What a really good feeling. Oh, let me get let's do the ultimate test. No, wait, we can't turn the wheel. I don't want to turn the wheel yet. Do we want to turn the wheel? Should be able to turn the wheel. We'll try that in a bit. But what you're aiming for, so we need this bolt here, the other bolt on the other side to line up, and you need those 3 bolts up there, right up in here, to line up. And then you need the drive shaft, we'll call it, to line up on the splines with the bolt going through. And then you need that guy way back there, drive shaft with the bolt going through. And all this has to line up perfectly when it's put in place. So yeah, looks like we got her, definitely. And alrighty, so we got it working smooth as butter, and it's installed in the car now, and everything lines up. We can show a photo here if we want to. There's video, etc. Anyway, yeah, it's funny though, even though that part of the column outer shaft thing, the collar, I guess we could call it, was tilted off a little bit. That's not where it was rubbing. It was rubbing where the Versa thicker part was, and it was it wasn't that the steering column was welded kind of crooked. It wasn't. When you rolled across the floor, the deflection was very minimal, maybe 2 millimeters. So it was almost like the Versa, that thicker part is not fully centered, I guess you could say, nor does it need to be. But anyway, you ended up grinding away kind of one part of it that was rubbing. And once I did that and got rid of a little bit of material at a time, and I kept testing it, now it's perfect. Now it turns smooth as butter. Now it's the bee's knees. It's awesome. I'm so happy. And then the other thing too about this photo is you got to have everything perfectly measured for this. Everything's got to line up. The 2 bolts for the column, the 3 bolts that hold the motor and the mount and the mid part all need to fit in their place. And then even the drive shaft, I'll call it, on both ends of the drive shaft where the bolt needs to go through that, whatever you want to call it, right? It goes on and then the bolt goes through sideways. On both ends, they both have only a millimeter or two of wiggle room there to do that. And that all needs to line up perfectly. This does. The motor doesn't hit on the side. It's good to go. So that's great news. Awesome, awesome, awesome news. I guess now we're going to take it back out for the 100th time, fix the wires in there, kind of get the heating vent controls working smoothly again. That would be great to do. On the other end, we got to drop the whole rack and convert that to a manual rack. I'm super excited. My vacation started yesterday, so so fun. Anyway, yeah, got to do all that stuff, but that column in the car right now is good to go. Oh, we even did get buddy, what's his name, who gave me the column. He gave me the plastic parts that go around it, just in case there's a difference there between the two, which it looked like there was, but we'll figure that out in the end. Either way, good to go. This is what, part 2, part 3, I don't know. Yeah, thanks guys, cheers.